as things are changing and people obviously are consuming content differently, can you talk a little bit about the creative that has changed and what creative is most effective now, or calls to action that have now kind of come into vogue and so as we do these things, we're actually doing the right creative as well. Thanks.
It's interesting. We had this great. See, I'm still on Facebook because I'm old, right? So we had this great argument on Facebook a couple of months ago. Actually, a couple of you in this room, I think, were in it, where I had posted that graphic design is just not the be-all, end-all of websites anymore. And of course, all the graphic designers had a fit. I didn't know I had so many graphic designer friends. It's not really so much about the creative as it is about the content. Yes, always make sure that your graphics have good balance. I hire a lot of graphic designers for a reason. A great image can get you more eyeballs than an irritating image or a badly framed image. Though on Jewelers Helping Jewelers, Aaliyah Arundel just sent out an email this morning saying, be stupid in your advertising, that'll get you attention. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's really off-putting, like that weird cat with the glasses and the glitter. You know, it's not great creative, but it works. So I wouldn't worry so much about the creative as I would about the content. I really encourage people to get out of these designer websites and into just greatly well-structured websites. Your jewelry is the thing. Your faces are the thing. Show that stuff. You know, make sure that the jewelry pictures are of high quality, that you can put a magnifier on it and actually see it. 360-degree views, really helpful for people. People want to try before they buy, and today that doesn't mean that they come into your store. It means they want to experience it as much as they possibly can on your website. Show people trying a ring on, talking about how it feels. That's where creative needs to go. It's not so much about what colors you picked for your website or whether your website looks different than everybody else's. I hit that a lot working with a ton of designers. Consumers don't care. They want it to work. They want it to get them where they want to go. So I would say switch your thought process from creative to content, like delivering meaningful, relevant value, and the creative will follow.
And if I can offer, I totally agree, and if I can offer sort of another context in which to look at that, I agree, the content is very important. I would also say the context is really important. So for example, as I am going through the web, my expectation, again, is that you are delivering something that is relevant to me. I tell this all the time. I have 12 pairs of these glasses. I only wear one. And the reason I do that is because Warby Parker has amazing retargeting. They show me exactly the products I was looking at as I'm browsing through the web, and they know I have very low impulse control, and now I have 12. And so I think the context and where you catch people in what message is important. And you had also asked what sort of calls to action are in vogue. Whatever the customer needs. That's the answer. If I'm looking at a beautiful piece of jewelry, I may not be ready to pull the trigger. If I am, buy now is great. If I'm not, maybe I need to schedule an appointment, or maybe I want to drop a hint to my significant other who's not picking up the hints. So I would say give people options for how to interact with your creative. And this is reflected in a lot of the different ad types and ad specs that Google is putting out, and we're giving you more and more tools to customize both message with intent and context. So the content is important, put the right content in the right context, and that's the formula.
Thank you. We have a question over here.
Diane Frassanito Jewelers, Huntington, New York. You mentioned Google Pixel before. Were you referring to the phone, or is there something more?
No, I was referring to my phone.
Okay, so there is no other type of like program or anything like that?
No, I was just saying, all you need is your smartphone, and you can get great pictures for the vast majority of what you want to do. Not for PR shots, not for something you're sending in to be published in a catalog, though I've seen people do it, good photographers can. But the vast majority of what you need can happen on your phone, even if it's an iPhone.
Okay.
I have an iPhone. It's okay.
Oh, no, I'm anti-iPhone. That wasn't for you, JB.
I didn't pay her.
Okay, we got one over here.
Hi. Are there any conferences or seminars or
places that we can go for an intense dive into all of this for a weekend or a day or two?
I will talk about it specifically for Google. Google publishes an insane amount of content about everything. And you can get your certification in a day if you want. So if you are interested in doing a deep dive into Google Analytics or Google AdWords or specific types of Google marketing, display or programmatic or just AdWords or search, those things exist. And so you can go this afternoon and get your certification. It'll give you the basics. It is really great. It is a criteria for how we measure our agencies and making sure they're staying sharp. And there are plenty of study guides and videos. There's plenty of newsletters out there. So this is more of a self-serve platform. So if you want the information, there is plenty for you. More broadly, you might have a couple you recommend?
My teams there's two blogs or published information that we will not miss. Anything that comes out of Google, and HubSpot's marketing blog is amazing.
Yep.
It'll teach you everything you need to know about inbound and marketing automation. Outside of the jewelry industry, the Direct Marketing Association puts on pretty good training for online skill sets. It used to be the place where we all went because we did catalog, and it's more, direct marketing is online now. So that is one group that is actually doing good, intensive, go for 3 days, take a bunch of classes, learn a bunch of marketing information that applies to online. But otherwise, I don't know of any other environment that's just like intensive trainings on online. So you're going to do a lot of self-service, and luckily there's a lot of good information out there.
I'm going to add something to that quickly. Centurion, this show announced a new initiative called jewelryecom.com. And Mike Halbin's heading that up, and a lot of that is free learning online, and it's going to be very segmented. So you can go online and sign up for that. It's all free, and he would be happy to give you more information. I believe we have another question over this way.
Good morning. Randy Cole from Diamond Vault at Troy in Troy, Michigan. Can you expand just a little bit on the level of response? You said there's going to be a change and better response sites are going to be rewarded. And
Sure.
What is that threshold based on? I know you probably can't get into all of it now, but at least some of it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So I had mentioned more than half of your customers are going to leave if your site takes 3 seconds or more to load. If you think about sort of the core of what Google exists to do, it's to connect, I am looking for something, with here it is. And so and Google for a very long time has been talking about mobile speed, mobile experience, mobile performance, and so we are sort of pulling people to say, okay, like we're really doing this now. If my intention is to give a user the answer they need to actually be able to open that site. So this will be happening in July. There's a full press release and blog post you can read about it. But this will become a fairly prominent ranking factor. And yes, amongst many others, reviews and content and the technical ability of your site, can we actually crawl it? So it would become one of many factors. But if your site, if I cannot usefully use your site, if I can't open it, if I can't navigate it, if it takes forever, that's not a good experience. And so we will sort of reward instead sites who are giving a good experience, who are answering that question efficiently. So this is happening in July. We are in January, end of January. So you have some time to start thinking about it, but I would really make this a marching order coming out of this.
And to add one thing to that, one thing we haven't talked about, either one of us, but it's very important, is fresh content. We know there is a dramatic difference in the amount of, in the search ratings and the amount of search benefit companies get when they publish new information more often. It's why blogs are still relevant. Mm-hmm. It's why adding new products all the time is very important. You need to be publishing new things on your site at least every week. We like our customers publishing something new every day.
Yeah. And the sort of good news on this one is making your website faster usually isn't as hard as people
That's true.
think. The number one culprit for slow sites are your images are too damn big. I don't need a picture that can be blown up the size of a billboard on a mobile phone. It is unnecessary. And so even by resizing photos, by looking at some of the tags and some of the other code that you have on your site that maybe is not really helpful, those can be pretty easily fixed with a developer. Google has a hub called Site Speeds Insights. You can just pop in your website and it will give you a diagnosis of here's what's kind of slowing you down. Another tool that I really like, it's not as beautiful. It is not endorsed by Google, but I still really love it. It's webpagetest.org. And you can pop in your website, you go to a simple test, and you can see exactly how fast or slow it loads on different types of networks. So 3G versus fast wireless, slow wireless. And it will give you the breakdown of what is actually contributing to your speed or lack thereof. So those are two tools that I find really helpful, and any developer worth their salt will know how to handle this as well.
Okay, more questions? Yes, sir. I can ask you to stand up and speak loud.
Hi, John.
My girlfriend runs our ads. She asked the question. She said, when you're doing specific Google searches, like I want to, where's the dealer who buys my ring? She's been doing it with a landing page as opposed to right to the website. And she asked, do you think a landing page is a good way to go, or do you think it's better to take them right to the website? Because on the landing page, it has the phone number and email where it's quick for them and efficient.
Sure.
Or is it better to make them go through the website and find the place that answers that?
It's not an either or.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a place for landing pages. Landing pages are part of what we kind of call squeeze marketing. We want to bring somebody to a page that doesn't have any other distractions but the buy. We don't want them to, that's not when we want them surfing. And sometimes landing pages are a great idea, and sometimes landing pages are not the right approach. When you bring somebody back through a link in search to your site, make sure that every link lands them on exactly the content they're looking for. If it's about a particular piece of jewelry, bring them to the jewelry item itself and all its rich content. Don't take them to the category page. Don't take them to the shop. So whether you're doing a landing page or bringing people back to your website, they have to land on the specific content that answers their questions, because otherwise Google's going to notice that they bounced right back out and hit the search again, and that hurts you. But otherwise, the discussion about when to use a landing page versus your web page, that's a bigger marketing discussion. So,
Yeah, and I agree. Either or, the context matters. So what do you want people to do when they search this thing? Drive them there. Make it easy on that person. So if you have specific questions afterwards, I'm happy to chat with you or your marketing person, but make it easy.
Okay, more questions? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, we use a thing called Podium. Podium allows us to request a review immediately if they are smiling. So we like to get those as quick as we can. Is there anything better, or are you familiar with Podium?
Podium's good. I'll tell you what's really important is make sure that you've at least got some, Google presence. Maximize the store presence that you get on Google, because when somebody finds you on Google, they know where you are, they see information about your store, they see your ratings, they see the last responses you did to the ratings, there's a map to show them that they're only a block and a half away. So there are lots of good review tools out there, but remember that the vast majority of customers are going to see the Google page about your business, and so you need to maximize the value of that.
Follow-up question to that. I'm sorry, I didn't say I'm Tim Branscombe from Sierra West Jewelers in Utah. That's my brother. Anyway, so my question is, should we follow up? Because obviously Podium offers the results to Google, et cetera. Should we follow up on those 5 stars with a thank you? I mean, there's a lot, so it's kind of like I don't want to sound redundant or be redundant. Well, what's your experience with that?
If you were a customer, what would you want?
I'd want to thank you now that I think about it.
I think that's a really sweet gesture. As far as the specific tool, Google can't endorse any particular tool, so I'm not going to answer that part of your question. But I would say do what's right for your business and what's right for your customer. If it does not feel weird to reach out and be like, hey, thank you so much. I'm glad you had a great experience. Like, hope to work with you in the future. Like, if that is not a weird or overly burdensome thing that takes you away from more important things, do it. Like,
I'll
this
go
is your
further and
business.
say, do it. And remember something specific about that visit.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
So engage with them. It was so nice meeting you and your fiance, Tim. You know, we really enjoyed having you in the store. We're still laughing about such and such. Those kinds of responses to reviews make everybody else reading the reviews go, I want to go to that store.
Yeah. Any questions
I
from
see a
somebody
mic
not in
right
that
over
family?
here.
I'm Jeff Herring from Herring Jewelers, Mansfield, Ohio. Hey, I'm really behind the curve here, but on our website, you know, my one of the goals for coming to the show was, you know, should we have our merchandise online? I mean, in the terms of e-commerce, that somebody should be able to either view it, all of what we have, or purchase all of what we have, or should be part of what we have. I mean, what would be the best? What is your suggestion as far as the first step, most cost-effective strategy?
Take
there?
your top 20% of items that you sell, get them online. Make sure you have great descriptions on them. Use the metadata options of your website to make sure that both what the customer reads and what the search engine sees in the back end are populated. And then move on from there. Your goal should be, if you sell it in the store, you can sell it on the website. Remember, you have a built-in reason to put new product on your website all the time, which is that fresh content thing. You should use that. It helps you in search dramatically. And it helps your customers once they get there, because if they don't see this thing that they want, they can find this other thing they want. The website is where they try before they buy.
Great.
Okay, anyone else?
Everyone's like, yes.
Could you stand up? Speak loud.
It's like almost everyone opens a text message, right? So like now it's like brand new
Yes.
thing. So I have text lines with my customers, but I just want to know, like, how do I maximize like texting, because they open everything I send them, but I don't want to be annoying, I guess. like email, like 30% of people open it. If I send you a text, you might not even know me, but you'll at least read it. So
Yeah.
that's my question, I guess.
I have hypothesis. Texting as a format for a paid ad exists. So, and I would say test it. I say test everything. Like, digital marketing is amazing and awesome because you can measure and test and optimize everything. So if a text message is more engaging and yields better outcomes for you than somebody directly calling your store or landing on your site, do that. I think because it is new, people do engage with it. I still get like those text alerts when something is delivered to my house, and I was like, ooh, like that feels good, you know? And I'm like, let me buy more, you know? Again, low impulse control. But I would say test it out. Because it is new and novel, because your demographic may skew a little bit younger, they may be more comfortable or okay with you sending a text directly, try it out. If your response rate is people aren't opening it and they're like, are creeped out, don't do it. Like, you will know your customer best. You know the folks who walk into your stores, and like through testing and optimization, you'll know, like, are people kind of jiving with this or not?
Jamie's right about test it. I will tell you, and it will work differently for everybody in this room, one thing that we are seeing right now is that text works best in that near me context. You know, and I know it works for me personally. I walk past a Starbucks or I get anywhere near a Starbucks and they send me a coupon. I appreciate that. I'm right near there. I can walk in, I can use my coupon. So near me works really well for text. The jury's out in our customers right now about whether it's more annoying than beneficial. So again, we're testing and watching. But relevance in texting is very important, and personal in texting. This is my guess, my prediction, okay? So we'll find out if I made any sense at all in a couple of years. I believe that personal is still going to matter in texting, more so than banner ads.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ashley.
So my question is about
You're good.
You're coming through.
so we have a lot, we have a contact form on our website. We have Instagram and Facebook messaging. We have now the Google texting and the Google messaging. You have all of these requests and customers asking questions. We're probably at about 20 to 50 a week. What is your advice on the management of that, what type of person within the organization, response time, obviously, because that Google text, they have a different expectation than maybe a contact form on the website where you can set an expectation of 24 hours. So I would love to just kind of hear about your strategy, your thought processes, your beliefs behind response and handling that within an organization.
As fast as possible, as personable as possible.
In retail stores, we're finding that treating it as the next up is really helpful. So it used to be the next person walked in the door, I took my turn being up, right? Well, now we've got people monitoring incoming communications as the next up. It's my turn. And that goes back to the fact that people, now on text, the good news is you don't even have to be able to spell that well. You can use shortcuts. So if you've got somebody who's young, who's using that device, and they can use semantic shortcuts, that's okay. But they have to be fast. It does have to be personable and personal. And it has to be accurate. So your salespeople are actually the best people to do that.
Yep.
So make sure you're using them in that way.
Yeah, I agree. These should be who talks to your customer when they walk in the store? Your salespeople. Who should talk to your customer when they walk through your digital store? Probably your salespeople. Like, you wouldn't leave them hanging if they were walking in your store and you didn't greet them and they asked a question and you just blankly looked at them for a week. That wouldn't feel good. So treat your digital customer the same way you would treat somebody who works in your. This industry is amazing at in-store customer service. Amazing. Like, what it feels like to create a personal experience. My charge for you is to take that and think about how do you apply that online. So.
Do you feel like even the after hours requests, that the expectation would be okay to wait until you're open?
I'm not going to tell your salespeople to respond to text at 2 in the morning. Let's set the right expectation with your customer. Your store isn't open at 2 in the morning. They maybe shouldn't expect a text back, but as soon as realistic, so please don't all go back and tell your marketing coordinators that they need to respond to text.
And that's the one time when an auto response is actually not totally annoying.
Yeah.
Dude, we're sleeping right now, but we open at 9 a.m.,
And I will
some
get
stores
back to
that
you
works.
tomorrow. Yeah, and then get back to them tomorrow. Are you really getting texts at 2 in the morning? Yes. Oh my God. Some desperate future fiancés out there.
What is the right way to respond to a negative Yelp review that you know is not true?
From the heart, you can win just as many customers from a bad review as you can from a good one. So if they've slammed you publicly, respond publicly, not defensively, from the heart. Get into their shoes and think, it's wrong, but what possibly made this person reach out in this way? And the vast majority of people aren't actually crazy. I know it sometimes seems like it. Respond publicly. I can tell you're so upset. I'm so sorry to hear this. I'm going to reach out to you offline and work this out, but trust me, I care that you're feeling bad about an experience and I want to understand it. Because saying to a customer, that never happened in a public review response, it won't help you. But responding from the heart will. And then go back out there later and talk about the resolution as often as you can. You can all remember some customer who came in your store that was just enraged over something, and they became somebody really important to your store in the long term. Treat every negative review as if that person could be that long-term relationship.
I've got a question. Jamie and Andrea, how much would you budget to advertise, to bring people to your site, to all of your digital content, to your store? And how would you analyze the ROI in terms of, would you have engagement? Would you be able to figure out engagement? Do you provide tools to figure out the engagement? Or is it only the constant contact type of tools that you can see, how many opens and
Sure.
that sort of thing? And what about actual store traffic? What would you think about those couple of things?
I actually thought I was off the hook. Thank you for the hardest question. How much you should budget depends on your market, your competition, and what your goals are. So that budget's going to look different. Even people in the same city may have very drastically different marketing budgets depending on their goals. So the budget question should be informed by somebody who can help them evaluate each of these channels and then start figuring out, if this is my goal, here are the channels that are going to feed into that, and here's how I appropriately fund each of these, and here's how I measure them to make sure that they're working. A marketing consultant will help you navigate those waters if you're walking out of this session like deer in headlights. So trust a pro, find somebody who's been around the block a couple times on the budget front. On the measurement front, how you measure each of those channels depends on what that channel is supposed to do. So for example, your AdWords and your Google advertising is typically a pretty low funnel, action-oriented channel. So you might be to the point where you're measuring ROI specifically. You might be at the point where you're looking at even just clicks or engagement or email addresses captured or open rates. So I think depending on the channel, you might have different. Google is going to be launching a product, the timeline has not been announced, but it's coming soon, called Attribute, or Google Attribution rather. And so it will be a platform where you can plug in all of your data sources and measure the performance against them as close to apples as possible. So your metrics then are somewhat normalized so that you can start looking at those things. But the core of your question is, how do you create a marketing plan and a marketing mix? Right. And then how do you evaluate that? And that is a very case-by-case basis. I'm not aware of any rule of thumb. If I did, I'd
There's another presentation I wouldn't mind sending to anyone who wants it. I did it for Atlanta Jewelry Show earlier in the year. And it shows you the marketing mix, and it's a guideline. And so what we start with is we look at, remember the marketing mix slide that Jamie put up at the very beginning? We want to make sure that
You'll never forget it.
Right. We want to make sure in broad terms that your marketing budget is reflecting those distributions. And then in that presentation gave some suggestions for how to break up a regular, your marketing budget into those mix elements. But you can't take that as some kind of a rule of thumb. From there, you have to analyze how your customer base is consuming media, and everybody's customer base is consuming media slightly different, but not dramatically different. So the overall marketing mix is important, fine-tune for your own business. Marketing dollars, it used to be that a retail business could spend between 6 and 7% of revenue on marketing and grow. That is no longer true. You need to be spending somewhere between 9 and 13% of revenue on marketing to grow. So that's a changed benchmark that's really shifted in the last 10 years.
I'm assuming, I apologize, I'm a little bit late, but, and thank you so much, Manuel, and your team for doing this. The local game.
Yes.
Have you talked a lot about that?
No, I don't think either of us focus a lot on local.
You have a retail jeweler with a great market position, a lot of power. They decide, I'm going to own the local market on Google, Google AdWords, and I don't mind paying more because these are my customers, so I'm going to beat out the big national guys who are bidding all around the country to own the whole thing, and I'm going to win in my market. Good strategy?
Great strategy. Great strategy, because you know what? Blue Nile doesn't care about Tulsa, Oklahoma as much as you do. Like, you care about your backyard more than a national does. A national brand has to take this giant lump of money, and they spread it out like peanut butter across a map. If you will know your customers way better than the nationals will, for sure. And so from a market positioning standpoint, if you're physically there, if you've been in your communities forever, you've been doing your billboards, you've been doing your branding, you're engaged in your communities, you know your customers, you've had them for generations, you already have the goodwill there. So it's sort of doubling down to make sure that, okay, when it comes time for that person to buy a gift for their mother or their significant other or whomever, that you are beating out those sort of more transactional folks. Because a Blue Nile or a Brilliant Earth, I promise you, does not care about your store or your community as much as you do. And that's the benefit of an independent retailer, is that you can know and give that community messaging that makes sense for them. You can be far more agile than they can. And you can probably spend more than they can for your backyard. And so owning your backyard is sort of the game.
But remember, you don't get to own the local market because you're local.
That's true.
You have to do all the things we talked about in here, because if you're local and you bring them back to a website that doesn't give them the result they wanted the first time in 3 seconds with good, rich content, they're still going to go look for somebody else who will give them that experience. So yeah, own your local market, but do all the things we talked about, even if you never care to sell more than 20 miles from your store ever.
Have you guys spoken a little bit about inbound marketing?
Oh yeah. Oh, we did.
Okay, got that covered.
What else you got?
I guess, what about landing pages? A lot about that?
Not a lot about landing pages. Again, it's its own
Sort
conversation.
of like a review.
Howard, you gave us a half hour each.
What's that?
You gave us a half hour each. We could do this all day. There'd be more content.
I know Emmanuel's big on landing pages. He says you got to have a great landing page, right? Got to have a great landing page, so to channel everything through. But it's pretty encouraging that you as a major Google player and you as an expert on all things marketing and digital, that you feel owning your local market for an independent jeweler is a really good strategy and one that's achievable.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
One that's achievable, because that's I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I got a lot of faith in this crew.
Yeah.
I'm placing a lot of bets on these folks.
Absolutely. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, I would like to thank very much Smart Age for putting on this wonderful, wonderful session. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Can we give our speakers, Jamie and Andrea, a great round of applause?